super high up to make a difference. Right?
Even then, I mean, I think altitude is like one of those things where altitude, at its most fundamental level, it just makes training harder. There are plenty of other ways to make training harder without having to travel somewhere.
It increases the amount of
Sleeping in the bubble.
Doesn't seem to make much. That doesn't actually.
Unless you're going to do an event at altitude.
Yes, if you're going to do an event at altitude, then you need to train altitude. But all this, it's a little bit like, yes, living at altitude increases your red blood cell count, and people are like, so that you should be able to get more oxygen, and you do, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can use it. Like you think about it, when you breathe out like 80% of the O2 that you took in, right? So especially for yeah, so you think like, well, I already have more oxygen than I need. Why do I need? Like it's the limiter is not your amount of oxygen your blood can carry; it's the amount of oxygen your muscles can use.
The years, I mean, the runners have done it.
Yeah, I mean, but those guys, it is like elite marathoning at that pace. It like then suddenly it is a limiter, right? Because those guys can use essentially as much oxygen as they can deliver. You know, most of those guys are running, 2 hours at basically 95% or more of their threshold. You know, so then makes a difference. But for an 8-10 hour race, it's like you got plenty of oxygen. That's not going to be your limiter.
Right. Interesting.
So, and even the Olympic distance, like the 10K, like Alberto Salazar's guys, the 10K guys, like they don't seem to train as much as altitude. Like seems to be like altitude is a real big difference maker. The marathon,
right?
Short events, not so much. Long events, not so much. It seems kind of like, who knows?
Yeah. They all go there.
But yeah, but certainly for Ironman or half Ironman. So.
Jordan, do you split? What percentage of your training would you allocate out of 100% to say swimming, cycling, running?
Typical week for Ironman would be, let's say I'm doing 25 hours. I'll probably do, or no, say 24 hours. 6 hours in the pool, 6 hours of running, 12 hours of biking. That's typical for Ironman.
Right.
Yeah, so 25%, 25%, 50%, 25%.
What
Right.
about for shorter race?
Probably 30, 30, 30.
30, okay, so more even.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan, what are your long runs? How many hours?
The longest that I did this year was 2 hours, 15 minutes. Up from 2 hours last year. Up from, like maybe an hour and 45.
Don't make it that long.
Doing too many.
That's why your feet are so screwed up.
Yeah. I think I run often.
Right.
Yeah, frequency is really important.
Yes. Often is different than a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think I gave a talk once, and this was a favorite perception, is that you don't need any practice running shitty. Right? So the longest that you should run is until the point where your form breaks down.
Yeah.
I did my first Ironman with the longest long run of 90 minutes.
But we have to keep that, like our Ironman is going to be 4 hours. Yours are, our runs, I mean, maybe 4 or 5, a little different. Yeah.
Yeah, but what speed are you running at for 4 hours?
I don't know. I'm trying to get there.
No, I'm saying.
No, I don't.
No, so how fast are you running? What speed is 4? I mean, 4 hours
8
is.
8 minutes maybe. I don't know.
Well, at the Rockies, we're doing about 8:30s.
Yeah.
No, I think four.
You're doing a 4 hour marathon. That's
On 4 hour marathon, that's 9:05.
Right, you're almost
I know.
walking. Form is not as important at that point.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like when you're talking about doing that, like a lot of like you would actually be better off like if you want to do that you do you're talking about being ready to run for like 4 hours instead of 3 hours.
Run for 4, yeah.
Then you're better. I would say better approach is to do like the Japanese runners, go for really long walks. Like they don't run anymore. I mean they run more.
I did that on Saturday
than a lot of marathoners.
I did it
But
all
like
Saturday.
they do like almost every day. They do like a second session of just like going out and walking for like 2 hours, right? So let's say you run 90 minutes in the morning, and then you go for in the Rockies or something like that for 90 minutes of walking.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about is important, which is basically the ability to sort of like stay like upright for 4 hours, which is not insignificant.
Right.
But you don't actually need to be running to practice that.
So are they running running, because I have a lot of running injuries, and that's my biggest struggle, and I walked a lot this year, that's what I've done, and before the race, I just run at the races. So are you saying that they're doing that as part of their training, they're running less miles? I mean,
No.
Right, they're still running all the miles they need to, but they're also walking.
Right, in order to get more mileage, they do it by walking.
Right.
One of the things that's important that Jordan's bringing up, that we talk a lot about here at Target Training, is, Jordan is, say you just said 6 hours running. Think about it, 6 hours of running is not that much relative, not that much more relative to like what a lot of the age groupers do, but it's the frequency. You're doing something all the time. Jordan's like swimming, running, cycling all the time, every day, frequency. So, you guys doing things frequently, doing a double session, even if it's just half an hour, right? Like you might ride in the morning and then maybe you'll go for a run after work for half an hour. That half an hour does make a difference. It's when you start stacking them all up.
Rule of thumb is if you have 20 minutes for a run, 30 minutes for a bike, and 40 minutes to swim, mostly because when you swim, there's like changing of clothes and getting on deck. So I say 40 minutes because you need 25 minutes in the water. The 25 minutes in the water takes 40 minutes. So 20 minutes of running, 30 minutes of biking, 40 minutes of swimming, or 20 minutes of running, 25 minutes in the water of swimming, 30 minutes of biking. If you can have that much time and you spend it doing something, that will be productive to your training.
Even there's some guys, like I know of a couple of clients that say they live near the facilities. Like they will run to the bike class, which is for them 5K or less. And then they'll take the bike class and they'll run home. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa.
So that's 2 20-minute.
All of a sudden they've gotten maybe 5 to 10K in.
Well, you think about it.
And they could spend that in a car.
If you ran 20 minutes a day.
And you don't think of it that way.
You don't think of it that way, but it adds up.
Do it. Like I run here on Wednesday.
Yeah, if you ran 20 minutes a day, basically five days a week, that's roughly an extra 100 hours.
It's a lot.
A year.
The guy
of running. That's huge.
The guy that won duathlon nationals 2 years in a row, I was talking to him, and 1 year he had very limited time to train. He's an excellent runner, and his background is in running, so he has a lot of base. But I said, what were you doing for run training? He's like, I run to work and back. It's like, I run to work and back, it was 10K. That's what I did every day of the week, about 6 times a week. That's 60K. And it was good enough for him. So.
Yeah, I would say that mostly the rule of thumb I would say is you should be running 5 days, you should be running 5 times a week, swimming 4 times a week, and biking 3 times a week. Like I almost entirely, except for I think other than 3 weeks in close proximity to this race since Texas, so I think it was 11 weeks between Texas. 8 of those weeks I never rode more than 3 days a week.
And you're running after every ride?
No.
No?
Running off the bike is a skill, right? So it's like playing the piano. So once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. Then you don't need to practice it other than just to stay in touch with it. Like running off the bike is not a fitness component, right? Like
Just an adaptation.
It's literally it is a skill. It's a muscular coordination thing.
But Jordan, it's funny because you say that a lot of age groupers.
We don't have time. He does this professionally. So
No.
Yeah, no. Time is.
No. But think. He said it's a question of fitness, right? So a lot of age groupers will overreach on a bike leg, which means that they're just really tired when they start their run. So they're just tired. They have to slow down. So they can't run as they would normally run if it was standalone. So they don't pace like an elite would. An elite could potentially pace a little bit better, right? And in a duathlon, runners run so hard in the first run that they're completely fatigued for the last run. So it's a pacing issue.
Right, but if you're you don't need to run off the. Once you if you have enough experience running off the bike, it's not like doing more. Let's say if you're looking for let's say you've been doing triathlons 5 years and you're thinking I want to become a better runner. Doing more of your runs off of the bike not going to make you a better runner. Running more will make you a better runner. Either more often or more total volume. But once you know, basically once your body is used to making that changeover from biking to running, you just need to maybe do it once a week to like keep up practice.
But the first few years though.
Yeah, first few years, I mean, just do 2, 3. I mean, I'm not big of like every time because I think it's like, it'll be like, never going to have a rule like that where you're like, not gonna kill you.
I felt like for me, Saturday was my first time doing all these things.
All the time.
And it wasn't a cardio thing on the run, it was literally physically putting my foot down.
Yes.
At mile 20, felt like crap.
Yeah.
Like it hurt. It wasn't like a cardio thing, my heart wasn't racing, but every time I stepped down, I was like, oh my god, that doesn't feel so good.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I don't know.
that's like a little bit, like,
Maybe
that's that
it's
same, like,
just,
the walking, right? It's like, it does take, I mean,
I power walked for like a couple miles.
yeah, but I mean, like, it takes a long time to get
That's an Olympic sport.
used to,
Take that
like,
seriously.
you know, having just being on your feet that long, right? Like, that just takes a long time.
It was terrible, but
Well, I think that's also, again, maybe I want bigger differences, especially with age groups, I suppose.
So better, man.
Go back to your now.
Thank you.
Send me some emails. Good to see you.
Photos through that.
Yeah, we'll
I
Facebook
mean,
them.
I did 60, 70 miles per week during the winter time.
Right.
You know, doing double sessions and whatnot. And so everything that you said to build up, and I still ran a 4-hour marathon on Saturday. You know, and I didn't exceed the watts. I did exactly as planned
Right.
for the bike. Just that finally the brain, and I knew the brain shut down. The body was capable. My legs were perfectly capable to keep going.
Right.
It's just at some point I was like, you know what, it doesn't feel good, and I don't want to do this anymore. And you know, again, brain
Yeah, I mean,
plus walk.
there's a lot of variance with that. Like, when people said, like, in Texas, how much faster do I think I could have run? And I was like, maybe 90 seconds, which is like so little, right? You think like 90 seconds over 26 miles, but you know, I could have run like maybe 3 seconds a mile faster. Or if you were like, how much faster could I have gone on Saturday? Like, if I really had to, probably I was like at least 5 minutes, maybe even like 7 or 8. You know, but it was like, don't want to. And thankfully I didn't have to, right? You know, but that's like one of those things where, you know, it's hard to really nail that. You know, it takes a long time to get that right. You know, I mean, my own sort of general opinion is that, like, roughly speaking, Ironman is probably too long for an age group athlete to really execute well. Like, you know, to the maximum of their potential. Like, if you see some guy who's finishing, like, whose age group who's finishing in, say, 9 hours, like, if he really, like, I mean, unless it's one of those guys, you know, like, say, you know, a former pro, like somebody, you know, like York City Ironman, you know, it's like mileage, or they were a collegiate runner or something like that. But, you know, they have some, or Joe Bonner's good, basically can train all day. But I think, like, most people, if you see someone finishing in 9:30, they're probably like, you know, 8:45 guy if they could actually spend that time. But it's just like the amount of training required is significant. And then at the same time, it's like, what's it worth to you, right? Like to go 8:45 instead of 9:30, you go from training like 16 hours to, like, you know, 24. It's like, you know, have a life and have a life and all that kind of stuff. It's like the difference, I think, between, you know, what's your best. Like, I say, like, I think as an age group, it's very hard to have your absolute best performance at Ironman, but you can have a very good one, you know, on a limited amount of training. But you know, it's hard to get 100% out of your body's potential. Like, you can get 100% out of, you know, what it is you might put in. Ironman is awesome. Like, I mean, it's really hard.
And you can't do more than a couple or so every.
Yeah.
Well, you've got, what, 10 weeks till Kona?
9.
Roughly? 9. So what are you going to do for recovery? I mean, are you going to use a recovery pump, or what's the...
So basically, I typically, like, when Mark Allen did like a self thing, and he did like use the blood markers and checked it. It's basically 6 weeks to fully recover. 6 weeks. Yeah.
So will you use any products to help in that recovery phase?
I have a Normatec boots. Yeah.
Do you think that's what will help?
I know they do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And